All aboard. Welcome to part two of the All Aboard podcast. John still in the room. Pretty quick processing. So we're right back on the horse. And looking at it here, John, too, we are approaching the trade deadline a week from so it's not even a week from yesterday. I guess it is, but we do Wednesday night at midnight. We always say Jim's not on the East Coast. Now he's in Texas, so I guess it's 1 a.m. But
Yeah,
to be totally fair, it's pretty much when I wake up the next morning. So if people are gonna, burn the midnight oil and run a trade through at 4 in the morning, I'm not gonna question them. So trying to
Mark,
wrap up your business by midnight, Wednesday going into Thursday, I would say.
Marky Bloom. You never know.
You never know with Mark, yeah, working. But the problem is like with how much the rest of the league, we got a bunch of dads in the league. Everyone's a working professional. Like people have dogs, etc. So like a lot of responsibilities. So you know, credit to you if you can get someone else to respond to you in the middle of the night and get a trade.
I know. And it's different this year. Last year, it's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So
Yeah,
everyone's kind of toning out of work. This year, it's just a normal work week. So it'll
I
be,
would love. I would love to like I would love to push it back a week, but then it's like, then you're week 12 and playoff starts week 14. It's like just a little too like quick. I mean, like you don't want to go exactly up to the playoffs. Then it's like you have someone's gonna figure out they're a seller and start mad selling.
right. I've definitely heard of dynasty leagues with no trade deadlines, and it doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I agree. You got to make a
Just opens
choice.
up drama.
Yeah.
Like well, we've seen so much drama in our leagues, and anything you can do that's reasonable to kind of put a governor on that and prevent any funny business, I'm I'm down with.
Now this is live on the podcast. Like, there's nothing holding us back from saying, do we make it the Saturday? The Thursday. The only problem is the Thursday games start. But we could make it the Saturday if people felt like, hey, we might be more active on a weekend on the trade deadline. I don't know.
Friday afternoon, Friday at midnight. I'm
Yeah.
up for whatever.
I will post a poll. We'll post a poll and we'll be like, is there interest in pushing it from Wednesday to Friday or Saturday? And
That's
I don't think there's any unfair for one game to have gone or whatever. I'm not too concerned about that. So yeah, we're always open for continuous improvement here, John.
I don't even know what the Thursday night game is next week.
Probably
Week
something bad.
11. Bengals, Ravens. Actually a
That's
good
pretty
one.
good. Yeah, actually a good one.
Surprisingly.
So, yeah,
No T. Higgins.
yeah. Unfortunately.
Injured in
Well,
practice.
I think
Brutal.
I just got an alert. Diggs is limited today with a back out of the blue, so that must have happened in practice. I'm like, oh my word.
Probably think this every year, but it seems to be a lot this year with the midweek injuries and the
Yeah.
guys who seemingly play the full game and produce, and then they end up with an injury 2 days later.
Yeah.
Happened to me twice with Kyron Williams and A Chain, where they have huge games, and then on Tuesday you're like, "What? Where'd this
Yeah.
injury come from?" Boom, IR.
Wasn't that like the same week too? It's either the same
It's
week or back to back, which is devastating.
right when my team was starting to show a little bit of life, a little
Yeah.
bit of light, I should say, out of the
Mm.
darkness retreat. Then they're like, "No, you still
Nope.
suck. Your two most exciting running backs dead."
There's also been so many quarterback injuries, which was like double, like number one, you lose in a super flex, it's tough. And then number two, like your receiver is working with a backup quarterback. Like I have DJ Moore about like having like a huge breakout. Like even if his huge breakout game, you lower that to 20 or something, he was still like above 15 multiple games in a row. I'm starting to feel great. And it's like now I got Tyson Badgett, no, present company not taking shots at your asset, but
Imagine
like he's definitely holding more back from his potential currently.
the
So
Division
it's tough.
7 undrafted free agent rookie.
Yeah.
Look at the Giants right now. Like they're starting. I mean, He's
Yeah.
also on the team. DeVito. But yeah, a ton of QB injuries. Kyler's finally back. Cousins, Rogers.
Yeah.
It's been a tough year.
It definitely has been. Well, we have another week left to solve it if you're an owner in this league. So let's look at some of these teams here as they approach the deadline. You proposed we may as well go top of the standings to the bottom. We might not be able to hit on everyone or every facet, but we'll start off with Ben here. I think he's probably made the majority of his moves. He seems all set at quarterback with Allen, Stroud, and Gino. Secured running back too, like you said, and then he's pretty nasty at receiver and tight end. So his assets, he has Marks first, throw up emoji, and that's it this year. 2025 too, and then just like his assets in 26. So I don't think he does have he could play around with that too. I'm assuming the one's off the table. But I'm not sure what else is available anyway at this point, like in terms of big ticket items.
Right. Maybe some running back depth if you wanted to get a third guy, but I don't know who's selling or who's available. So I agree. He's made his moves. He was aggressive early, and he's the juggernaut right now of the league. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, we can gloss over me because whether or not I have something sneaky in the back of my I hat, I honestly I'm down to basically just the 2024 second, which is the Alex second, a potential high two, depending on how the season ends here. But that's something I'm sort of earmarking for off-season improvement. I got to have something to play with in the off-season to rebuild the team for next year. Pushed in a lot of chips. Kyron was a big move for me. So I'm probably mostly quiet or on the smaller end of deals here as we approach the trade deadline.
that's yeah, you short up QB2 a little bit with Minshew.
Mhm.
Kyron's coming for reinforcements. Yeah, I think you're pretty set. Otherwise,
Yeah, I would say
hopefully
so mostly.
Charbonnet steps up.
I'm hoping. I mean, like the thing with Charbonnet is because Walker's the primary guy and the team hasn't been really running the ball well. Like he's in a split. He hasn't been contributing a lot, but he always has that upside where at any given week, if Ken Walker goes down, I could have myself sitting with a top 12 running back. So that could happen and end up giving my team a little bit of a boost here at the end.
Even at the time of the NFL draft, that was just such a frustrating landing spot
It
for him.
was for a good player too.
He would have been top 8 pick potentially if he just went somewhere else.
Yeah.
So see,
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So I mean Ben and I we've kind of already done our thing. I think Jimmy's an interesting case we can spend a little bit longer on. Um, I mean, the weird thing about Jim is he still has a war chest. And you're like, for a team that like could be winning the championship, I feel like so far it's a bit of a missed opportunity. He has my first, his own first, 2 seconds this year, plus a third. The next year he has a first, only just a first, second, third regular picks after that. But he's got a full board of picks in 26 and 25 plus extra picks in the first and second rounds this year. I know you kind of want to extend your window as long as you can, but isn't this sort of sitting on like he hasn't done everything he could to win the championship this year? I don't see
right?
any other way to put it.
If he loses to Ben in the title game, Kelsey goes for 25 points. That
Yeah,
might be a big regret. I mean, he's done an amazing job of building his team and studs at every position except for tight end.
yeah,
That's the one weak spot he had. He did just make, I made a small deal with him for David Njoku for a little bit of depth. Losing Waller hurt him, but the tight end market is what it is. It's not like he can really buy there. So that's why I was shocked when he didn't go for Kelsey in the offseason. But like you said, I think he's looking long term. He got his title, and now he's just trying to prolong his dominance as long as he can. So his lineup is stacked. He's got a lot of capital. He's sitting pretty, but if he does lose because of one move he didn't make, that's gonna be a bitter pill to swallow.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. And I think something that's interesting is Ben and I have talked about this, and hopefully, well, we've kind of talked about it to Jimmy anyway. So like, I don't feel like I'm breaking any covenants. But during the off season, if Jimmy just bought some of the assets from you right away, I don't think you're gonna get as many buyers. Like, I don't know if John B pushes chips in or I push chips in as much or Ben. Like, I felt like Jimmy basically had this team all along, and if he capitalized on it right away, I I just feel like he could have like shut the door on a lot of other teams this year. And instead, we have 6 or 7 pretty solid teams competing right now.
For sure. Definitely agree. We'll see. I mean, maybe he makes some wild offer for TJ Hawkinson or something, peel him away from Tam. Shocks the world. He's got the draft capital to do it. We know Tam's willing to sell. He'd have to change his team name, but if he gets Hawkinson,
Yeah,
but oh, anything's
I don't think he's
possible.
willing to
But
do that. It definitely is. It does make
yeah,
I like the Deontay trade for you. I'm a Deontay guy, clearly from the board. I didn't like it for Jimmy. I just like I don't understand what the first round pick does for him. When like you look at it, he loses to me last week because his depth just wasn't there on a bye week. Deontay Johnson was playing. And like sure it doesn't make up the difference, but it sure as hell makes it more even and gives him a shot, you know?
and he scored 18 points last
Yep.
week. So yeah, I was surprised when he sold. Like he said, it was initially a Howell deal. And then I remembered from the preseason that he had put Deontay on the trade block, I think as a joke. So I was like, what do I just throw a first and John Mechie, who at the time still had a little bit of appeal and
Yep.
now is completely worthless. And I think the combination of the first and the second was really attractive. So he's like, all right, Sam Howell, even earlier in the season, who knew what he was going to be? And Deontay was on IR at the time. So it was surprising he was willing to sell, but when you're, what is he, 8-1, 7-2, it's kind
Seven
of
and
hard to
two.
criticize.
Yeah.
Proof is in
It
the pudding, I guess. We'll see how the rest of the season goes.
he has a strong team no matter what he did. And it's more of like just sort of like critiquing the corners here. Like when you look at you look at my team and Ben's team, you're like, okay, there's not much in 24 or 25 pick wise left. Like
Right,
these teams have done what they could to improve. I think there's reasonable criticism that could be made of Jimmy not doing the same thing.
right, for sure. Just did such a good job with his startup draft that he's going to be a wagon, as they say.
Some of us would call it luck, John. Some of us would call it luck.
I will say he did give Ben grief about the Puka luck.
Oh yeah.
The Amonra guy who drafted him in like the 12th round of the
Oh
startup
yeah,
and
seriously.
number 5. It's like you got pretty lucky there too. So,
Seriously. I love that. It's my favorite part of the podcast so far.
I think
Ben will
Amonra was a third round rookie pick because I was looking through the history of where some of these guys went when they were rookie
yeah, he
picks.
wasn't expected. Like
Yeah, because was he a fifth round draft pick in the
I
NFL draft?
I think he was.
I did notice that when I was looking at his team. And I remember he gave Ben shit for bragging about Puka, which it was a
Yeah.
lucky that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Ben does his research, no taking away from that.
I love
So
it.
funny.
This will not quell the message board from claiming you're aligned with
Yeah,
Ben.
I gotta duck into the trench, wait for
Yeah.
the 88s to come down.
So and my apologies, John. I probably have about 8 minutes left. I forgot I have a shot at the top of the hour here. But we've had a good discussion, so hopefully didn't cut you off too short. Are there any teams like you're like Mark on a selling basis or Edwin? Like who do you want to
So
cover
yeah,
while
so
we
I
have
think John B is a hold. I don't see him making any moves. His team is great. He's getting
yeah,
Kyler back. Not much to say there. He's not going to sell. Alex, dark horse for the title. His team is just dangerous. Very
yeah,
star heavy, star studded. Stacked at
stars and
QB.
scrubs?
Debo's coming back. He doesn't have much draft capital. from what I remember. Well, now he's got a second round pick thanks to me, but I think he's good. But yeah, I think Edwin and Mark, and then I guess looking at the bottom, I'm not selling. I don't really have anything to sell that anybody's going to buy. Same with Tam.
I
Same with
keep I keep
Travers.
coming back. I keep coming back to the John store. I'm willing to talk on guys.
I mean, people. I'm not putting anybody on the block, but people are available for sale. You know me. I'm
Yeah,
always willing to make a deal, but yeah, because it's kind of like the top three or the bottom three teams, me included, are just see what happens, but we don't have any clear assets to sell because we've already sold.
hmm
And then the top three or four teams are clear hold because they've pretty much already bought and they're in. But it's Mark and Edwin who are the real wild cards.
yeah,
And both of them, neither of them have their pick in 24 for this coming draft.
yeah,
So I can't justify selling. It's like, why bow out and just give somebody a lottery pick
yeah,
unless you give one away with an offer?
yeah.
They both have a ton of guys who could be attractive to sell. It's a
Yeah, I
game.
think you look at Edwin, he's got more points for than my team. I think he's got a little unlucky in when those points have occurred, and he's had some down weeks against some weaker competition to pile up some losses. He's had some up weeks when Ben went absolutely off against him. So like some bad luck. I still think even with Carr and Heineke and Pickett, I still think he can do enough with the rest of his lineup. Tyreek Hill having a career year. I mean, you look at this week, like we both have bye weeks, but Edwin and I are mostly even. And I'm sitting there a good bet for the bye week, and he's sitting there 4 games back. I don't think that's reflective of the strength of the team. So if I'm Edwin, I'm riding it out. And I said this last week, I said it this week. If it ends up not working out, that's just unfortunate. But I do think Mark, it's tough. He doesn't have his first. So to your point, you may as well see where it goes. But I feel like Mark did what you tried to avoid, which was wait the extra year. Try to compete. Like if you kept your team, John, you probably would be in like, the 4 and 5, 5 and 4 type area where you're trying to make this decision, except you wouldn't have the war chest just to build the next realm. And I keep saying this about Mark's team. I feel like he's kind of Cheyenne blooming it, where he's not choosing a lane and the team's getting worse by the year. So is this the year he's gonna do the full sell? But I don't know. Let's go through his team, John. Like if you're buying, who are you interested in? Like, I'm not really interested in Mac Jones. Like he's not selling Herbert.
It's his assets are either too young, guys like Zay Flowers, Tank
Yeah.
Dell, Dotson, that you can't sell unless you're getting a haul, or they're not worth a ton, like Dante Foreman, Zach Moss, Juju. I guess Gabe Davis is a wild card. Josh Jacobs
That is
is the
one guy he could. Yep.
selling a big name running back at this point and collecting two firsts at least. I mean, if someone's not going to pay up, you can't trade him. But if someone's like, "Hey, I'll give you two first round picks and a throw in for Josh Jacobs," Mark would should think about it
hmm
because aside from Justin Herbert, his quarterback situation is pretty bad. And
Although
if you,
it would be quite like Mark to pick up Carson Wentz, stab me on Stafford, stab you with like the long-term Carson Wentz, you
he
traded Carr, and then Wentz is gonna he's gonna become an all-pro again because that's what Mark does.
be worth a second round pick 4 months from now.
Yeah,
I
and he's
know
got Raheem
Mark be a
Mostert, so it's
true. Mostert could be a sell.
I
Pacheco, I
think
guess, could be a sell.
Mostert's probably worth it too for a contending team if they're
Yeah,
willing to do it, and then if Mark's willing to do it, I think that's worth it.
same with
I
Pacheco. Maybe that's something Ben does just to shore up a third running back.
mhm,
I haven't looked at matchups for playoffs, for fantasy playoffs. I don't know if that would impact anybody's thinking. But if one of these older running backs or one of these lower end mid-tier running backs has a good schedule down the stretch, maybe he lets go of one.
mhm.
But yeah, Mark's team is interesting. He's a very savvy owner. His moves tend to work out for him. But I can't really put my finger on what his general plan has been because it was kind of a tank, but not really. And then he bought, and then he
I am the melon. It's the Red
right, it's
Sox. I'm looking
one
at the
step
Red
forward, one
Sox.
step back. And I had been talking a Sam Howell trade with him for weeks,
Yeah,
2 weeks, 3 weeks. We just couldn't get anything done. I pretty much made him the same offer that I made Alex, and he turned it down. Made a
yeah,
couple other offers because he has some young receivers, Zay Flowers
yeah,
and Dotson, who I like, and was trying to work out something around that, and he just wouldn't bite.
yeah.
So I guess he's comfortable with Mac Jones as his two. But if Sam Howell was his QB2, I think it'd look a lot better.
I agree.
But yeah, Marks, I bet he'll do something.
Yeah.
Just don't know what it is. I would probably try to sell one or two of those pieces, but not so much that it kills your chances for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
Edwin, I would hold, like you said, most of his assets will still have value, like the Devontae, David Montgomery, Javante, Tony Pollard, things like that. So he could sell a piece or two and still stay the course. Jacoby Myers. So we'll see.
yeah,
They're both kind of in the same spot, I guess, just with very different rosters.
for sure. Well, I gotta get running. I appreciate it. John, any parting thoughts? And I'm sorry to cut you short here on the full second part.
My one soapbox, well, my last one. I've now made 2 trades to get rid of QBs in advance for the QB limitation. So if the conversation gets opened about removing the QB limit, my head is going to explode. And I'm going to cry and whine like a little baby on the message board.
He's putting it out there. He's putting it out there, folks.
QB limit stays. Sorry.
Love
Okay,
it, John. Well, thanks
that's
for
it.
coming. We appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks again, John.
Good luck.
All
Bye.
right. I'll talk to everyone later. See ya.